Today I'm talking with one of my guy friends who just got back from his trip through India, and we're discussing a topic that I really think is under discussed, which is men hitting on men, being propositioned by other men when traveling. It's definitely something that took my friend by surprise, as well as some of the other male travelers that he came into contact with. So we're chatting about that. He's going to tell you about what he heard from some other male travelers, as well as an experience that he had that made him really uncomfortable as far as being propositioned by another guy who's actually quite young. So we're going to talk about that, and stay tuned to the end. I'm going to tell you what's coming up next. Today I'm here talking with my friend Ankur. We actually met traveling around India together, and today he's going to tell us about some stories, some experiences that he had traveling in India. Now, I just want to say right off the bat, these are his experiences, and it's not necessarily reflective of India as a whole. Now, if you're wondering why I'm saying that, it's because I don't want crazy comments, like all in my thread, like, oh my God, I can't believe. Take it easy. We're sharing experiences and information. Just want travelers to be informed and aware of some things that happen from time to time. So, we met in Rishikesh, where it was like super chill, yoga, hippie vibe.
Yeah.
But you went some other places in India.
Yeah.
And had some different experiences as well.
Yeah, I did.
So tell me about that. How did it start? I think you were in the south of India, actually.
Yeah, so I mean, the first few incidents weren't personal. So one was in a beach town. I was in Kerala, and that's in the south on the west coast. And so I met another foreigner. He was white, tall, handsome guy. And so we're just walking along this beach town, and there's a waiter that has a crush on him. And he's so his eyes are googling out. He's just so excited. And they start chatting a little bit, and James is very nice, but obviously the waiter has a crush on him. And
so he's doing stuff. What kind of stuff is he doing or saying to kind of make it clear that he has a crush on this guy?
So he's just saying he's actually locking up, but he's like, you're just so beautiful, and then he's trying to contain himself, and he just,
I've been there.
yeah. So it's just like he's stargazed, and so he had seen James once before, but he then.
So you guys actually, well, no, it's okay. There's lots of Jameses out there. We're not identifying the one.
All right.
So you guys are actually at this restaurant. The waiter is sort of
we were just walking by
interested.
the restaurant. He was on his time off. But anyways, he ends up putting his arm around his waist, and I suddenly become the third
And to be
wheel.
clear, the waiter puts his arm around James. It's not James snuggling up to the waiter.
Yeah, the waiter puts his arm around him, and then they're walking arm in arm for 10 minutes. I'm the third wheel, and it's
Now, by the way, we haven't said,
interesting.
is James gay? Is he interested in the waiter?
Not at
or is
all. And I think maybe the waiter was hoping there would be some possible curiosity on James' part, but there wasn't. So it didn't end with anything, but it was just, and James was so nice, and he didn't set any strong boundary, and he was trying to be friendly, and that was his own decision. But it was and I think that's why the waiter felt comfortable even putting his arm around him, and
Right.
for 10 minutes walking arm in arm, and I'm just walking behind them. I'm should I go away? Should I let them
Maybe
just...
you need to get out of the way. You cock block. Leave them alone. Except it wasn't that kind of
But
situation.
but he had already told me about this, so I knew he wouldn't want me to go away because he's not interested.
So had he had those experiences before of being approached, or he was kind of caught off guard by this?
He was caught off guard, so he was definitely. It was oh my God, this amazing story kind of thing.
And I think this is interesting, where a lot of times if you're not expecting to be approached by someone, it can feel really shocking, especially if it's a member of the same sex and maybe you're not expecting that kind of attention or you're not accustomed to it, than to have it in such a straightforward manner.
Yeah.
Could be a little bit surprising.
Yeah.
But now you also had some direct experiences as
Well-
well when traveling.
Yeah, I mean, but first I'll talk about 2 more incidents before that.
Yeah.
So then, like a week later, I'm in Alapi, which is in Kerala, and I'm on a canoe with 3 other foreigners, and one of them's a guy. So we start chatting, and like I tell him about this incident, and he was also white, and he's like, oh yeah, this happened to me on the beach in Kerala. I was just walking on the beach by myself. He was a solo traveler, and some local Indian guy approached him and said, hey, do you want to see a nicer spot on the beach? It's more quiet and secluded.
Oh, it just sounds romantic already.
And so he believes him. He's like, yeah, sure. Like, let's go scope it out. Like, someone's trying to show me the scene.
And by the way, as this builds up too, like I just want to say that it's tricky with all these situations because sometimes you'll hear this story and it is just someone showing you maybe a nice spot on the beach with nothing else attached to it. But then other times,
yeah. So they end up walking like, let's say a mile down the beach. It is nice. It's secluded. So they're just
promises were kept.
So, and people are friendly like that. Yeah. So they're just sitting, hanging out. And I think very quickly he just straight up asks, the local Indian man asks the foreigner, like, do you want a blowjob? He offers.
Very straightforward. Wow.
He offers it to him.
Yeah.
And, he's just like, oh, no, thank you. And it was like a surprise.
Right. A nice surprise. You're like, he's like, oh, thank you. But not exactly.
Yeah. So, and then, like maybe 2-3 weeks later, I'm on the east coast of India, in Pondicherry, and I meet some travelers, two white guys, 2 foreigners traveling India, and they were on the beach in Pondicherry, and they had gotten approached there. Same thing, one Indian guy approaches them, same story. As soon as he's telling me, like, oh, this guy offered to show me a nicer part of the beach.
You're like, oh, I know where this is going.
I know where this is going. And then, they go to a secluded spot, and same format, straight up offered blowjob. Like,
And I just want to add, if this is what you're into, by the way, also, no judgment. We're just giving information for some people who were surprised and not in the most positive way. They were surprised, like, oh wait, this is not. I just wanted to see the beach. They weren't looking for and were surprised by the blowjobs that were being offered.
And
just want to throw that out there.
And these guys were confused, like they were so shocked that I think they were like, maybe we're misunderstanding kind of thing.
Right. You're like, he said like blowjob, but maybe he meant
it's like what do you
parasailing?
Mean? But yeah, so and then I told him, oh yeah, I've seen this happen on the West Coast, and now I'm seeing a pattern here, right?
Right.
So.
And by the way, were those guys okay with getting out of the situation? Did they just like hightail it back, or?
Yeah, I mean they didn't like. No, I don't think they like felt threatened or ran away.
Right.
Okay. They probably just exited the situation.
Yeah. They felt uncomfortable with the offer, and then they just
shocked, and then uncomfortable, and like, but so nothing beyond that.
And I will add, though, I think this is kind of a positive to the whole situation, which is that none of these situations were violent. They were offers. Wow, something just happened outside that was loud. Anyway, they were offers that weren't really expected or welcomed, but they weren't at all hostile situations, which I think is important to point out. And, there was no sort of, aside from like the dude putting the arm around the other one, it's not like a physical thing, right? So I think so don't get freaked out, don't get worried. It's not some sort of tussle that's about to happen. It's just.
If someone offers you to walk down the beach to a private spot and you're a white guy, at least with
you think only the white guys are going for?
Well, that's what I thought, because I'm Indian, so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm glad. I can walk the beach and nobody approaches me. I'm
Right.
more or less invisible, right? Especially when there's foreigners around that are white. But yeah, so then once I was in South India in Mysore, and I'm just walking to breakfast, and there's like some temple festivities going on, and so this
So it's like a religious ceremony.
yeah, and it had just ended, I suppose, and this 15-year-old kid approaches me, and he's like wearing like the more religious garments. He's more formally dressed up. He's got the tikkas on the head and stuff like that. So he just starts asking me simple questions like, oh, where are you from? What's your name? It's a very typical.
Every situation I've ever had in India that went left started that way. Hey, where are you from? Oh, you're getting into trouble as a woman if they say, are you married? Oh boy, that opens the door. But okay, so it starts out very normal for you. Where are you from?
Yeah, for me, that's a lot of people are just interested in knowing your background. Where are you from? What's your name? What are you doing? You're traveling alone. Why aren't you married? Because they obviously see I'm not a young kid. And so this like 15-year-old, he's like, you're not married? And I'm like, no. And then he's like, oh, why not? And I'm like, I don't know how to like break it down.
Right.
But
You're like, it's tough in the U.S., like I'm
like, yeah, what do I do? And then
I tried Tinder and Match, I don't know.
it's like, yeah, what do I need to explain?
Yeah.
Why do I need to explain myself? And then he's like, well, do you like women? And it's like, what? And then he's like, oh, do you know this one foreigner? And I said, no, I don't know him. He's like, oh, he let me touch his penis. And I was like, what?
Right.
And I was actually first worried for him.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like,
Because he's like 15 years old.
Yeah. And I'm like, did he make you do this? And he's like, no.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, okay. So I was like letting that sink in. And we're still walking. And then he stares down at my crotch. And I'm sensing this, and it's like, oh God, this is becoming weird.
Right.
And then he asks, can I touch your penis?
Right.
And I was just like, what?
And he's just straightforward with it, like, can I touch your penis?
Yeah. And I was like, what? No. And he's like, no, we're not going to do it here. Like trying to console me.
That's the problem. It's like not on the street. I'll take it.
It's like, oh yeah, okay. Like
in that case, 15-year-old kid on the street, look.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, no, and I had reached my restaurant, my breakfast spot at this point. So I just like walk in, I don't look back, and he's like still trying. He's like, please, and it's like, you can't say please, like
You can't say please.
And I just don't look back, and I walk in, and so yeah, I'm lucky that's where it ended,
Yeah.
and I could exit pretty easily.
Yeah.
But for the next 2 hours, 3 hours, like, this has never happened to me, and I was just like, wow, so this is what it feels like for women, like quite a bit. Like
Yeah.
I felt, I wouldn't say unsafe, but it was just like, it was definitely like, whoa, somebody trespassed my boundary.
Yeah. That uncomfortable, unwanted sexual attention directed at you can definitely be unexpectedly upsetting in a way, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think the fact that he was so young is like a little bit troubling. But the thing also to remember about India, not to make huge generalizations, but of course if you travel there, sexuality is tricky in the US, and I think is treated in the US as being something that can be seen as very shameful and hidden. And certainly that is also true in India. and a bit magnified.
Yeah.
So it's like gender's very separate, sexuality is very like, I don't think that growing up, this sort of like holding hands, like me, I'm straight, so holding hands with a boy, kissing a boy, these like experiences I had as a young person growing up, not so common in India. So these early experiences, early sexual experiences, aren't as readily available, maybe with someone of an appropriate age. So it's almost that I feel also sorry for this 15-year-old kid that is gay, who's maybe having to turn to foreigners, for some sort of normal 15-year-old experience that maybe he should be having with other 15-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, I have a theory on why they approach foreigners. So by law, I think in 2011, homosexuality became illegal in India, and but I'm not sure if it's more of a social stigma. So obviously people who know you don't want it to be found out in the community, right? India is very communal.
Yeah.
So when you ask foreigners, since they're transient, they're not going to stick around. They don't know the people in your community.
Right. They're not going to tell anyone. Yeah.
It's a low risk, right? Yeah. Low risk and high reward, I guess.
Right.
If you get it. But yeah, so that's probably why you get approached as a foreigner.
Also in India, it's really tricky too, because I remember talking, so I traveled, there for several months at a time, and I remember even talking to some Indian friends who were at one point like, oh yeah, well there's no gay people in India.
Yeah.
And I was like, how many people do you guys have? You're telling me in the whole country there's not a gay person. But like this is a predominant, I don't know if it's predominant, but this is an idea that some people do have, that number one, there are no gays.
Yeah.
So then if you are gay and then that people are saying that there aren't even any, that's an awkward situation to be in and can't feel very comfortable or nurturing. So one thing I want to point out is that if you are traveling in India or anywhere, I think the lesson here is that having clear boundaries and being able to say no and walk away from a situation is important. And also, there are some incidents that make it into the news that are very heinous, disgusting, terrible. But I would say in general, really, India is very safe.
Yeah.
And to make a generalization, Indians don't seem very violent. They're not very violent, like even these situations that we're talking about, it was like offers of sex, right? Offers of, things. It wasn't like, I have a knife and now I want to get something from you sexually, right? It's not even.
And these all happen in public spots, daylight. So it's just they're fishing. They're testing the waters.
So it is good to be aware of. A lot of times the things that kind of make the headlines that people are talking about is women, and is it safe to be a woman traveling alone in India? How are the women gonna make it through? And the women being propositioned by men gets kind of a lot of discussion, but men get propositioned in India as well, as we have learned. So.
Yeah, which was a surprise. When I first arrived, it was just like, oh, wow, it's...
And I'll be honest, even when you told me about this, I was surprised, like genuinely, because I only knew it and heard about it as well from that female perspective.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard any other stories from men talking about getting propositioned, having like dudes hugging up on them, walking down the street. But I think a lot of people would have shame surrounding that, because especially in the West, there is still, I feel, a lot of homophobia that can exist, where it's like, oh, you don't want to be seen as gay, so, well, don't talk about these kind of gay experiences, even though you're not the gay, you know what I mean? Like, I think this kind of thing is still sort of there. So I'm so happy that you were able to talk with us about this today and kind of...
Yeah, and, like, one thing I wanted to mention, though, is if you do go to India, you will see a lot of guys walking on the street holding hands.
Yes.
So that's quite normal, and that's actually... They're not gay.
Yeah.
Or
they're not always gay.
They're not always gay. That's just friends, and it's just a form of intimacy.
And I think that's nice to see. I love actually seeing the men holding hands with each other, locking arms, and just like doing their little friendly thing on the street. I also saw one time though these two guys who they were like really laying on each other. One dude had his head in the other dude's lap. I was like, I think there's something more going on here.
Possibly.
But the majority of the time, it really is. You can see it's just friendly, cool things. And I wish we had more of that in the West. And also, sometimes you
Yeah.
see girls holding hands with each other. And like, I never hold hands with any of my girlfriends. Maybe I should start.
Yeah.
It might be awkward, though. I could try.
In India, your sense of personal boundary decreases.
Yeah.
And people are more, you're brushing against people all the time, walking on the street.
Yeah.
You don't think much of it.
I saw people got two men. I was on a long train ride. The two men had just met each other, and within like 10 minutes, they're like talking, touching, and like sitting so close together.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this feels like a community. I wanted to I was like, hey, I'm here on the train too.
I want to be friends.
But the truth is, as a foreigner though, and as a woman, they kept such a respectful distance from
Yeah.
me always. They were like foreigner, but I did feel a little bit left out sometimes. I have to be honest. I was like, how's it going, everybody? I want to be part of the Indian team. So there's a lot of fun to have if you travel to India. Some things to be aware of course, with anything. But thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this too. Feel free to like, share the video, and I'll catch you next time. I hope you found that chat informative. I was really happy with how open and candid he was about all these different experiences. I think sometimes there can be shame involved when talking about some of these things, even when people haven't done anything wrong, of course. It's just kind of a little bit of a touchy subject sometimes. So, hope you got something out of it and enjoyed it. And stay tuned, there's more to come. I'm always traveling and talking to fun and interesting people that I'm meeting along the way. So, see you next time.